Young Tibetans Educational Club, also known as Y-TEC, is a non-profit organization based in London. It is joined as a wing of the Tibetan community in Britain, comprising of parents, volunteers and Tibetan children. To know more about the club, I have with me the founder of Y-TEC, Tenzin Yangchen Takla. Tenzin, it's really nice having you here on Tibet TV. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Sakinla. It's good to be here.
So, Tenzin Takla, firstly, can you tell us something about the organization? What happens in Young Tibetans Educational Club? When was it formed and why?
Of course, Sakinla. So Y-TEC was formed in 2006 and we held our first event in 2007. Young Tibetans Educational Club is a coming together of parents. We run main activities are twice a year. We have two events, which is a teen weekend, and also we have a main camp. And these are for children and youth within the UK, primarily within the UK, but we have occasional attendees from outside. And we run workshops based trying to get Tibetan language promotion. We do activities in music, history, and all things Tibetan, basically. And we try and do it to try get the children thinking about how they want to learn in a different way to what normally happens in a typical classroom and work, from a Tibetan Sunday school or whatever. So we also do activities trying to aim towards instilling identity. We talk about, we do outdoor activities so they get new opportunities to try things like kayaking, and there's house group activities. So there's lots of competitive things going on for the children, and the whole idea is to try and bring fun to being Tibetan and celebrate the Tibetan identity. And then parents come as well, and it's a 5 to 7 day, just a Tibetan space for the children to build friendships and come together.
The two main activities of Y-TEC are the annual summer camp and the teen weekend. And so what does an individual needs to require to be a part of Y-TEC? And I also believe, and you just mentioned saying that even parents are involved, even they participate. So why do you think that the involvement and the participation of parents are important?
So yes, I think mainly we have children coming for the main camp from ages 6 to 16, and then we have 17, 18-year-olds and older youth come to act as youth leaders so that they can help run activities and sort of learn the ropes of being in positions of responsibility. And then we have the teen weekend, which is mainly for, teenagers. And then parents come mainly because it's a practical thing, really, for us to be able to run camp. We need to have the adults there to be able to do the workshops and do all the organizational things behind the scenes. So it's really important that we have the parents as well. And I think to be part of camp, you just have to be within that age group and Tibetan, of Tibetan heritage, and mainly based in the UK. But we occasionally have people from outside as well, as I said.
So there are 5 people who founded this organization. So how did the idea strike you? Why did you think that it was important to bring all the youth together and then discuss about the Tibetan identity and the culture?
So initially it was just myself, really. It was just an idea that I had, and I ran it past with my husband at the time, and it's always been something that's been of interest to me to have something that really nurtures your sense of identity. And the Tibetan community in Britain used to have events that did that for me. And I suppose as I grew older, I saw other activities happening around the world. There was an organization based in India called Longshaw that did Tibetan Jewish youth exchange programs. And this was founded, I think, nurtured by His Holiness. From what I understand, he said that the Tibetans can learn a lot from the Tibetan Jewish youth exchanges that can happen to nurture a sense of identity that can sustain into the future. So what we did was we thought that actually this would be a really good opportunity, because a lot of the Tibetan youth in the UK and children are really quite spread out. So London is very spread out as a city, and so to have opportunities to meet each other is not very common. And when I was growing up, I think we had maybe 3 events in the year that you would see other people your age, and it was really important to have that connection with each other, because it's a really important part of who you are. And once you have that strong sense of identity, then I think a lot can come from that. Your interest in learning Tibetan, your interest in your culture and your heritage and connecting. I think so the idea came from that, and there was a growing number of children. So that's why we thought it would be useful to do. And then as years went on, we've had the board members and parents join in.
What challenges you had to face? Because like you mentioned that, everybody, all the youths are scattered in London. So was there a problem in gathering everyone?
I think the problem wasn't so much getting people in coming together. We did initially a survey of the existing parents at that time to see if there was interest, whether they would want to let their children go for those, 5 to 7 days, whether they felt that there was a need. And the survey was overwhelmingly a yes, they were interested. So we knew the parents were interested. I think the challenges initially was financial, but we quickly found a donor organization that was willing to, fork the cost of the whole camp the first year. And then I suppose the bigger challenge, which I didn't really foresee, was more the organizational side. It's a lot to organize. And the first camp, as I said, was mainly my husband and myself with the support of a handful of other adults. And it was a lot to organize, being in lots of places at the same time. And so we quickly realized that actually we need a few more adults. And that's, who's more invested in this than anyone else are the parents. And that's where we turned to.
Since it's a non-profit organization, how do you manage the expenses? Where do you get the funds from? Because, like in camps, it's of 7 days and there are so many children coming. You have to provide food for them, and also, it takes money to do all the activities. So how do you manage the funds?
So our funds are really, our expenses we try to keep as minimal as possible, and everyone is a volunteer. So there's no manpower costs in that sense. We don't have any salaries to pay because everyone's a volunteer. So our main costs are really the venue and, like you say, the food and the equipment that we use. We hire a coach to get everyone together in London and then take everyone out there. So those are the primary costs. And we keep the expenses usually met by the parents. So the parents pay a camp contribution fee, and it costs roughly about £100 per child. And there are certain discounts we allow for people with extra children coming, or an additional parent coming will also have to make a payment, for example. And then we have some people who make standing order contributions. So every month they instruct their bank to give £2 a month, and over the year that adds up. The more people we have, on occasion we've had to, of course, seek donations, but that is happening less and less as more and more parents come.
So YTEC has been there for more than a decade. I think about 15 years, if I'm not wrong.
Okay. Yeah. So we've been so from 2007 onwards, yes.
So what response have you been receiving from the Tibetan children who participates in Y-TEC? And do you think that you are able to reach that goal and motive that you had behind setting up this organization?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think the children really respond positively. I mean, I think it's become quite clear for them. It's the time of year that they look forward to right from the get-go. They come to the first day of camp asking when the next camp is, and people get really sort of happy to come. So I think that's a real success of Y-TEC. You don't want these events of culture preservation for children to be things that are, all handed down and they're sitting there getting bored and not engaging, because you can then leave a negative imprint as well. So we try and really focus on making it fun. And I think that shows through. So all the children, every Tibetan event there is, they're really wanting to come to see their friends, and they're really wanting to come to, events organized by the Tibetan community in Britain. So I think it's an avenue for them to come together. Whereas my fear initially was if people didn't make those friendships, and they didn't know anyone at these big gatherings, they would then be hesitant to come put their foot into these, Tibetan sort of spaces, right? But that's not happening. They're coming and engaging, and they're volunteering and helping out. So you get the sense that it's been successful from a friendship point of view and an engagement point of view. And then I suppose some of the other purposes that we originally had was one of the main ones, of course, is preserving Tibetan language and culture. I think over the years, what's been quite clear is whether we can do that in 5 or 7 days in itself is, obviously difficult because for the rest of the year, people are not with us. But what Y-TEC does do is it inspires parents, I think. I think it inspires parents, it encourages them, it encourages the children, and just sparking that interest is what we can do within that time space. And I think it has been successful because I've heard that parents go away and then their children weren't speaking Tibetan when they came to camp, but when they've gone away, they're making efforts by their own volition. And I think that is a success. I've had other people tell me that their children have expressed a desire to learn Tibetan after camp, and enroll onto other learning lessons. So I think these are all positive things that I think we can take away from camp. I always feel that we could do more for the younger children. And I think early years education is really important. And one of the things I wanted to stress was that we as a people, especially growing up, away from our homeland, we really need to not lose focus on those young children, especially in the West, where we don't, our children grow up in non-Tibetan speaking environments. The language is such a key fundamental part that, and the real important part of that is the early years. If we get that right, then I think we put a good foundation. And so I feel that one of the things that we really should be focusing is on that next.
You have a wonderful reason behind setting up this organization, and I think that it is really important, especially for the youth, to be aware about their own culture, because most of the Tibetan youth, when they go abroad, they become, disconnected. Like most of them, they become disconnected with their identity, disconnected with their culture, and especially the language. And I'm so glad that your organization is making the Tibetan youth be connected with their Tibetan identity. Thank you so much for your effort in gathering all the Tibetan youths together and making them connected with the Tibetan identity. Thank you so much, Tenzin Takla, for speaking to Tibet TV. It was lovely having you here. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Sakina. It's just been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode of In Conversation with Tibet TV.